Hey, I'm Deidre Detterman, host of the Do It My Way podcast, where we empower women business owners and CEOs to do business on their terms with no regrets, hesitation, or fear. I'm obsessed with all things marketing. I started my career in television, and I remember sitting in countless meetings, listening to executives talk about things that needed to change, but they never did. I was always thinking, what if we did it my way? Once I became an entrepreneur and I started living life on my terms, working the hours I want to work, making the money I want to make, I started to feel success. I was finally in control of my destiny. I hope you will join me on this journey discovering how you can do it your way. Welcome to the Do It My Way podcast. You're going to love today's guest. It's Courtney Bullard. She's an author, speaker, mother, and founder of the Pearl House, which helps teenage girls in Ghana, Africa. She had an amazing calling on her life, and she took the path and has done some incredible life-changing things. You don't want to miss this episode. Thank you for being here, Courtney.
Yes, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to it.
Well, I'm so excited. We actually met at a Women in Business conference, and you and I were both speaking.
Yes.
And I cracked up because you walked in and you had the same thing I had on.
Exact.
We both had hot pink jackets, black pants, and I was like, I know I'm going to like that girl. Look at her.
Yes. Pink is a good color, and it's a great color on you.
It's a good color on you, too. I think we might have the same coloring, and I love your little red here today, so it looks so nice.
Thank you so much. Yes. And I remember you speaking, and I remember thinking, that is a tough act to follow because you're an incredible speaker, and I really enjoyed listening to you.
Well, thank you so much. Well, you were so inspiring that Bree, my assistant, was with me, and I was like, hey, we need to get this girl on the podcast. She was going to be great. So I can't wait to kind of dive into your story and just share with everybody, everything that you've done to help teenage girls. And now you are a teenage mom yourself. And so that's a big, you're preparing for that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is it is definitely a journey to be a teenage mom.
You should get extra points for that. That's for sure.
So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you again.
Well, good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, let's talk about mentorship because I know you've been a mentor to so many, all these teenage girls that you've helped over the years and just being a mentor in general. So did you have someone that you looked up to as you were growing up that you said, you know what, I want to be like them?
Oh, wow. Yes. I look back and it's interesting. I think different seasons that you're in. And I look back even when I was in elementary and then junior high and high school that there are like key people in my life that I really looked up to and actually just mentored me that like saw me and I think saw potential in me and would speak truth into my life. And I really am just so grateful for those men and women. And so definitely for sure. People that I didn't know, always want to be Miss America. Who doesn't? Right. And so, but those people though that were really in my life, I remember being even in leadership in high school and he was in charge of the leadership. And he just really believed in me and saw things in me that I didn't see. And then even in my church, there's a lady that was my small group leader, and she just would speak truth into my life and encourage me and just really mentored me. And I think that's so important. And that's really my hope is that everyone has someone like that in their life. And that person can be different. It doesn't have to be the same throughout your whole life. But it's neat even just to look back how those people even change.
So true. And, those teenage years, especially you were talking about, being in middle school and growing up, that's when you're probably the most insecure time of your life as a female.
Yes.
Just trying to figure it all out. You got hormones flying and, it's just a tough thing to navigate. And so to have someone look at you and say, hey, you're great at that. You're a natural leader. You should go into leadership. It really changes the trajectory of your life.
Amen.
Of where you go.
Yeah,
so I love that. Okay, so speaking in leadership, did you know early on, or was it just kind of hearing those mentors? Like, did you play a leadership role when you were younger? Were you kind of like the one in charge when you were playing with your friends?
Well, my mom bought several books that were about the strong-willed child.
How
and
funny.
So I remember that I just, I always liked being, I was in dance and did cheerleading and basketball. And I really feel like I look back and a lot of my value and worth was in performance. And so, which that's a whole story about how I feel like the Lord used that then for me to help teenage girls realize really where you find your value and your worth. But I think that I probably always had it in me. Like, I think that's just kind of how I'm created and made. But I think until someone gave me the opportunity to really be in a leadership role, or even a speaking opportunity, I think that's when I realized how much I truly loved it. And, sometimes your giftings are developed as you go. And so I think until I had those opportunities to like step into leadership is when I really realized, like, I love this. Like, I don't think it's really even just being in charge, but just like pulling out those leadership qualities in other people.
Empowering people.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is 100%. What a great leader does.
Oh, well, that's the goal,
Right.
and the hope. But for sure, I think that it gives you energy. I think those things that really empower you and they don't drain you, but they bring things to life. I think those are good indicators that that's, something that you might be drawn to or qualified or skilled or, give the talents to do.
Yeah, exactly right. So you went to UCO.
Yes,
and
I
then
did.
After college, you created ID Ministries, or you founded ID Ministries. And I've got to hear about that because I was just talking to the team earlier before you walked in, and, to go from college to be a founder of something, that doesn't happen typically, right? You go get a job, you work for someone else, you figure it out what you're good at, and then maybe you find become an entrepreneur or the founder of something later. So walk me through that time, being in college, and then what made you, kind of take that leap of faith.
Yeah. So I graduated. I was a Broncho at UCO, graduated from there. I moved to Tulsa. I actually took a position at a bank here in Tulsa, and I was working. I had a job that with my age at the time, I should not have had. I look back and I think
you were a natural leader.
Yeah,
that's it.
Well, you're sweet. I think that, and I loved it. I mean, it was like a dream job for anyone right out of college. And I remember like thinking that's maybe what I wanted to do, but I've always been drawn to teenage girls. Like I always just had a heart for them. And I've just, I remember going to these events, and it would be a working event, and maybe there were teenagers there. And I just was like, I want to go talk to them and just, invest in them. And I don't know, I've just always been drawn to them. And so my husband was a youth pastor for several years at our church. And so we worked with teenagers. And I thought, well, maybe that will kind of like fix this, kind of, I don't know, like passion I have of just really being with them, with teenagers. And so I remember that, at that time, there really was not a lot of like retreats and conferences for teenage girls. And, you might have a church that they would have a really young youth pastor, and he might be in school or right out of school, and he's with these teenage girls with all the hormones, all the things, and he doesn't really know what to do with all that, right? And so I just remember thinking, gosh, this is a need. Like these girls need someone to come and speak truth in their life, remind them how valuable and how much worth they have, that they have purpose. And so I remember just thinking, maybe this could be a weekend retreat type deal. And so it started small, and I reached out to actually just some friends that were on staff at different churches. And I said, hey, can I just come bring a couple of, ladies with me, and we just pour truth into your girls all weekend long. And of course they're like, yes, please I need help.
Most people run from teenage girls. So
right. That's great. Most adults, right?
Yeah.
Even. And so so that's kind of how we started, and it just grew from there. And I remember I started doing that like on the weekend. So I would work my job on the week, work weekday. And then I would, like, as soon as I was finished, I would rush to wherever retreat I was doing and do the weekend conference. And then, back at it at 7:30 on the Monday morning. And I remember that there was this time where I just felt like the Lord was saying, you have one foot like over here and then one foot over here, and you need to decide what you're going to do. And if, I would love to use you, but if we're not fully in, like, I'm going to use someone else. And I remember thinking, no, I want to be the one. And so I remember going into my boss's office and resigning. It did not make any sense.
Because you were making money.
I was making money.
Right?
Yes.
You were paying the bills.
Yes, I was the breadwinner in our house, and made no sense on paper. But I just think, and I was good at my job, but I remember thinking, I'm like miserable. Mm-hmm. Like I am not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I took that kind of leap of faith. Did not make sense at all, but it's crazy. As soon as I resigned, the phone was just ringing off the hook, of just people wanting me to come and do retreats. And then it just grew from there. Like we did it for over 10 years and we had over 30 women that would travel with us. We do multiple retreats on the weekends.
So outside of Oklahoma, you were going.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did. And we went to Romania was the furthest that we went one year. And so it was really, it was a really neat season and very fulfilling. And just to see these girls that maybe no one had ever spoken truth into their life or reminded them of the value and the worth that they have. It's transforming, and it empowers you.
And God bless you with 2 teenage girls, or not teenagers yet, but 2 girls.
Yes.
That will be teenagers.
Yes.
So you have what, a 14-year-old right now?
Yeah, 14 and 10-year-old, which they're about to be 15 and 11, which, you have to, they remind me that all the time,
Yes. Yes. They want to be older.
So, yes. So, I'm in the thick of it right now.
So what do you think has prepared you for, now that you have a 14-year-old and I'm sure her friends are around and so you're around these teenage girls, everything you've done, obviously applying it to your own life, like how has that played out?
Yes. So I think I love it, to be honest. Like teenagers they're complicated. It's hard. They are trying to find out who they are. They are, they're searching. And so I think the things that I spoke into girls' lives for over 10 years, I'm now having the opportunity to do that inside my own home. Mm-hmm. And so not only to just my girls, but their friends are over and I see it just as opportunities. Like if you can even if you just are, a few seconds just to speak some truth is good and it can be empowering. It
is. And I think pouring into the friends' lives, you think about a lot of teenage girls they kind of shut down. Mm-hmm. They're not opening up with their parents as much. It's just a crazy world. Mm-hmm. And they're on their phones and all of that. So for them to have you to kind of be there and be a mentor, that's really special. So,
well, you're sweet. I did I'm teaching a study right now for 10th, 11th and 12th grade girls. And I met with them and I told them, I said, okay, I could be all your mothers right now. Yeah. Like I'm of the age that I could. I was like, but I'm not here to be your mom. I'm not here to be your peer. I'm just here to remind you and speak truth and, about your value and your worth. And let's look and see what it is that, that you want to do with your life and your plans and you have a purpose.
So is ID ministry still to this day? You still doing that? I know you have the Pearl House, which we're going to get into, but
yes,
is that still going?
So
transition?
It's transitioned.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so, but you never know. It might resurface. But for right now, it's transitioned into Pearl House.
Okay. So the Pearl House, 2011.
Yes.
You founded the Pearl House, which is absolutely amazing. So I want you to share that story, how God put that on your heart and really what the Pearl House does.
Yes. So my husband took a group of teenagers over on a mission trip, and actually they were supposed to go to Kenya. At that time, there was a bunch of political unrest that was happening, and so he couldn't take teenagers over there. It wouldn't be safe. And so there was actually a man in our church who was doing microloans in Ghana. And so my husband reached out to him and said, hey, I have these group of teenagers. They've been trained. They're all excited. We have plane tickets. Like they're expecting to go to Africa. And, what do I do? And so he was working with a local pastor at the time and said, bring them. We will put them to use. And so he went to Ghana that year. And so I remember my husband's name's Steve. And I remember he's like, Courtney, you should come. This is going to be amazing. We're going to go to Africa. And I didn't even have to think about it. I was like, I am not going to Africa. I am fearful. I don't want to die. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But you can go. Yeah. And so he went and he comes back and he's telling me about his trip and about these girls that, just 8, 9, 10 years old, living on the streets of Accra, which is the capital. And there's just no hope for them. There's no one's able to do anything for them. And so you see this cycle of children having children, the poverty, the being sold into child marriage. And there's no hope. And so I just remember thinking, I've never met these girls. I've never seen these girls. I've said I'm never going to go to Africa. Yeah. But yet I couldn't stop thinking about them. And I just remember, so much where I thought, I cannot continue to go about my day, to continue to live my life, knowing this information, like I have to do something. How can I not, but what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't even know where to start.
Especially being all the way here, it seems like,
impossible.
It would be, yeah.
Like, it's like, yes. And so that's why Ghana. And then it's a long story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Pearl House, just walk me through, like, where do you even start?
Yes. So
you're going to figure out, you're going to start a nonprofit and then you're going to start fundraising, or what were the steps?
Yeah. So I just remember thinking that, okay, I need to go. If we're going to start this house and I want to help girls, I want to be able to, intercept them before they are on the streets and, change the trajectory of their life.
Right.
And so I remember thinking, I've got to go. And so my oldest daughter was 2 at the time, and I just even through all the fears and thinking, like, I remember thinking, like, this is it. Like, This is it. I'm going to die, you know? But I remember thinking, but I have to, I really felt like this was an assignment that God had given me to do. And so I remember getting on a plane, going on a vision trip, like, where would we have this house? How will we do this? And I visited several orphanages and just kind of got that resounding, like, so glad you're here. They're very hospitable in Ghana, but very much this is impossible. Like, there's nothing like this in Ghana. So, glad you came.
Yeah, right.
Like, this
it's a good thought.
Yeah, it's a great thought. Yeah. And so I remember coming back and being very frustrated. And I came back on a Friday. A couple of days later, my husband went on a mission trip into Memphis and took our students. And then he basically was introduced to a lady who was a youth pastor at her church. And she's like, I want to move to Ghana. And she's like, I want to run a home, and not just any home, but a home for teenage girls. And so that's really how we started. We were like, okay, we knew we needed.
Because you need someone over there.
Yes, 100%.
And you can't raise your family and be, there.
Right. And I didn't think it was supposed to be, I'm like, I don't think that's supposed to be me.
Right.
I hope it's not me. Like, I don't really, I don't feel equipped or to do that, but she did. And so she sold all that she had, packed her stuff up, and
wow, that's incredible.
Moved to Ghana. Mm-hmm. So we started.
God put you in her life, obviously.
Yes, one of those those meetings you have where you look back and you're like, how just your steps were ordered, and the introduction was definitely made, not by accident.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's so amazing. So today you still are going strong with the Pearl House. How many people do you have on your staff, and how many people do you guys serve?
Yes. So we have 4 different branches of the Pearl House. And so we have over 70 employees in Ghana. And then we have here.
And that's employment for them that they wouldn't have otherwise.
That's right. And I think of, sometimes I think when you say yes to something, or, you have a passion for something and you take that first step, like, you sometimes have no idea the ripple effect it's going to have and the impact it will have. And I even look back and I think, if I would have known just how large the Pearl House was going to be, I probably wouldn't have been so quick to say yes.
Right.
I hope I would, but I think I would have been overwhelmed, and I think I would have thought this is truly impossible. So I think it's important that, you have to just take those, like just that first step, and you do what you can for that day, and, and then things fall in place. You work hard, but you can't, and you got to dream big, but you can't think, sometimes I think we think and then we get overwhelmed and we don't do anything at all. And so, so it's really, it's amazing to see just the growth. And you're right, the employment. So not only do we employ, over 70 Ghanaians, but we have at our residential care facility, we have about 60 girls that we help. And then we opened a school, and at the school we have almost 500 students that attend.
Incredible.
And so, and then we have 2 career centers, and then we opened up our counseling center last year.
That is amazing.
So yes, I think when I even look at it, I'm thinking, it's crazy. Like, how
it is crazy,
the impact. But I'm so grateful that I said yes, and I'm so grateful I got on that plane.
Now, do you go to Africa very much?
So I go once a year.
Okay.
And then, but we have groups that go over every month. And so we take teams every month, and we have a guest house that they stay in. And so, but I go at least one time a year.
So since it's a nonprofit,
Yes.
fundraising is a big part of that. So is that mostly your job? What you do is the fundraising part, or where do you go about to get funds?
Yes. So we have an office here in Tulsa, and then we have one in Oklahoma City. And that's really our primary role here, is that we basically raise support,
Right.
donors, foundations, grants, all those things. And then basically the money comes in and we send it to Ghana, because that's
Right.
where the work and the mission is. But yes, we started and we thought, well, we have no funding, but we have this like passion and desire, and we want to help these girls. We have a person that's willing to move over there. And so we started, and we would do dinners in homes of people we knew. And we just asked them like, hey, would you invite your friends? And we just want to tell the story. And so we would do that. And it was amazing. People would get their checkbooks out and just, and they're like, we want to be a part of it. And that was even before we had girls. And so we started small. And then to now to see just, as it's growing, you have to, more funds are needed.
Right.
And so, but that's primary, like finding grants and foundations and donors and supporters, and just sharing the story of Pearl House is really our primary role here in the States.
That's great. I know sales can seem awkward to a lot of people. You want to start a business or a nonprofit, and it's that part that's just like, oh, I hate asking, right? I hate asking people. And that's what a lot of my clients say, that sales part, but you're doing it for a greater good. It's like, I'm just the pass through. It's not me. You're helping these girls that, and to take them from school to getting a career. I mean, helping, place jobs and all of that. That's just really incredible. So
thank you. I was raised that like, you don't talk about money. You don't you don't ask people for money. Like
Right.
you just don't do that.
Right.
And then I'm like, well, here I am in this position now where I have to, in order to help these girls. And I think it's good to keep that in mind. But also I think one thing I've learned is, when I have maybe asked a donor or, they're always so grateful. And just saying like, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of it. And I always think, the worst they can do is say no.
right.
And
Now they know about it. They've learned, you've educated them on what you're doing. And
Right.
if they say no, they say no. And
Right.
you could move on to the next.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I think too, like our role is just you make the need known, and then, and then it's up to them if they want to be a part of it or not.
Well, that's incredible. I admire you for doing that and taking that leap. And I mean, starting a nonprofit, that in itself is daunting.
Yes.
The paperwork you have to go through. I mean, I really think it's easier to start a business than a nonprofit because of the paperwork and dealing with the government and, the taxes. And there's a whole thing. I get a lot of women coming to me and say, they have something on their heart and they want to help people. And they want to start a nonprofit. And I start to kind of go through some qualifying questions because I'm like, there's a lot more to it than just, I have a great idea. So
That's
you
right.
had an idea and executed, and now here you are, 70 employees and serving all of these, teenagers, and all of that's really incredible.
Well, I have a great team, and I always say I never want to be the smartest person in the room. And so I think it's so important you surround yourself with people that know more than you. and people that are gifted differently than you are. And so I look back and I'm thinking, there's no way that I could have done this by myself. And there's still no way I could do this by myself. But, we all play a part. And I remember thinking like the paperwork and thinking, I don't know how to do all that. And so I've reached out to someone who did, or, reached out to someone who actually already started a nonprofit. And so I think we really can learn a lot from each other.
So what is the day in the life like for Courtney? You're a mom, you're an author, you're a speaker, you're running a nonprofit, you have 2 daughters. I know life is busy. So just kind of walk us through like a day in the life.
Yeah. So every day is different, which I'm, all women can say. I feel like can speak to that. But normally it's early morning, getting kids to school, and I try to be there until they leave for school, and then I hit the ground running. And so I always try to have the mornings and night times look the same. And so I kind of look at it as like bookends, because you never know what the in-between is going to look like. And so I think it's important to have that consistency, just even as a mom, so that they, kids, that makes them feel safe. And so I try to make the mornings and the nights look the same, even though in between is sometimes chaos. And busy and, it looks different. But, my role with Pearl House right now, I'm the chief visionary officer, and my main role really is I'm out meeting with people, telling people the story of Pearl House, speaking, and then, and all the in between.
Right. Do you have a morning routine? Is there anything that kind of sets you up for the day before you start all these roles and start hitting the ground running? Do you take some me time?
I do, because I think it's important, because it's a way, I think, to be settled and to focus. And then, so I don't know how it works, but I feel like your time then gets back to you, and it kind of, I don't know how that works, but I feel like it does. And so, so in the morning, my daughters leave really early for school. And so I get her to school, and then I normally go for a run. I spend time with the Lord. And then before I have to wake up my 9th grader. And so that's kind of my time. It's precious. Like, I love it. Yes. And if I miss it, it really, my day is not as good as it could have been.
Yep. I feel the exact same way. You kind of get your regular routine. And if I'm off, my husband will be like, you didn't work out today, did you? Because I'm cranky, I'm in a bad mood. And it's just kind of like everything feels like it snowballs in the wrong direction.
Yes.
Where you get up and you have that me time, and I've always done 5 a.m. because now my kids are older and I could easily work out later, but I'm like, it's just, I've done it for 20 years, and it's that time where no one's calling to see if you want to do something. There's no interruptions other than sleep. So you really don't have an excuse, but to just get up, and then it just sets your day into that tone of, productivity.
Yep.
You're so much more productive. By the time I get to work, I've been up 3 hours. I've worked out. I've had a healthy meal. I'm, reading my devotional. I'm, going over podcast notes or whatever I need to for the day. And so I'm ready and prepared.
Yes.
So I think, especially as a mom, I never thought of that until I was a busy mom. And then it was like, okay, you've got to get these things in place to really, set yourself up for success and taking that time. And to me, it's that morning routine.
Absolutely. And I think too, if you don't schedule it, it will not happen. I think we all have good intentions, but I think unless you make time for yourself, like no one else will make time for you but yourself.
Yeah.
And so you have to and I think sometimes as moms, we might feel guilty even because we give and we always are, serving others. And so I think sometimes, it's kind of, I always think of when you're on an airplane, and you put the oxygen mask on yourself before you put it on your child. And so I think it's important that you make that time for yourself, because you'll be better. You'll be a better mom, better, employee, better leader, co-founder, whatever that looks like.
So true. Very true. So do you think there's one quality about yourself that maybe has led to your success? Is there something that you can say, you know what, I feel like if I had to pinpoint one thing that has catapulted me, and I'm just kind of throwing this out there.
No, it's a great question. I think I'm pretty positive. And so I don't do negativity very well. And so I always just think there's always something positive you can find about whatever it is, a person, a situation. And so I really think that would be my answer to, I know it would be my answer.
I love that. Attitude is everything, and showing up. And that is how I hire. I always look for attitude and people that can come in and be in a good mood and be happy and be positive, because you can teach the skills. The skills can come from anywhere. And I've done the reverse, where I've hired people that had the skills, but they didn't necessarily have, the attitude or the personality to fit in. And it doesn't work.
That's a good word.
That way. So attitude in everything you're doing. I mean, you've got to be positive in your own life. And then these teenage girls are looking to you, and your own kids, things are not going to go your way all the time. And those little eyes are looking at you. How's mom going to react to this? And that's how they learn.
That's right.
So how to handle things.
That's right. And I do think that I think it's easy to be there. You always can find a negative or always find something. And so why not be different and, try to find the positive. And really, even if you don't feel it, your attitude will follow,
So true.
So it does.
Put on a smile and suddenly you feel happier.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think too, you have to almost retrain your brain a little bit of being positive if you're not naturally bent that way.
Right. Yes, exactly. So how do you balance everything? Do you have a set schedule in your day where you say, okay, I'm going to spend this much time, on myself. I'm going to spend this much time with my daughters. I'm going to, my husband, spend time with the Lord. Do you have it blocked out, or do you kind of feel like you go throughout your day, especially with work? I found where I am really like a scheduled person, probably like to a crazy point, but where it's like, I've got to block out an hour to do this. I've got to block out an hour to do this, whether it's with an employee or what I'm doing. And if I don't, I'm going throughout my day and I kind of feel like it's chaotic. You know, there's a lot of chaos that can happen. So how do you kind of handle that balance?
That's a great question. I think that I've learned to be more flexible. I'm probably more bent toward schedule. I'm very task. I'm very like, we got to be productive, all those things. And then I married someone who's very laid back. And then now you have 2 daughters that it's like, whew, you know, you got, and then you never know what curveball they're going to throw you that day. And so I've learned to be more flexible in that. And I do have to schedule or like I have to put things on my calendar. And even if that means like time for me or time, like I'm going to talk to my daughter and be intentional. How do I connect with her? Well, we're going to go volunteer at Puppy Haven because she loves puppies and I can't stand cleaning up the dog stuff. Like, you know, but I do that. So, you know, I think you have to schedule it. But I think one thing I've learned is to build margin in your day. And so I think if you're so scheduled out that I think you can miss opportunities of even just maybe loving on someone well or speaking truth to them or offering a word of encouragement because you're so focused on getting to your next thing. And I think as Americans, we're wired that way anyways. We're very like, I mean, think about, we are so busy and we're so scheduled out. And so I think it's something that goes against the grain, but I think it's so important to have margin that you kind of allow like, okay, whatever, maybe this day's supposed to look different than what I think it's supposed to look like. So that's one thing that I've learned. And I try to do that in my days.
That's great. Great advice. I think being a parent, that gets thrown out the window anyway. And I was very, you know, everything had to go as planned. And then suddenly it's like, it's never going to go as planned. You have a toddler, you know, running around. It's not going to go as planned. You know, things are going to come and go that you have to just let it go and say, okay, this is for tomorrow. I'm not going to worry about it today. What's most important is, you know, spending time with the kids or whatever, you know, whatever is needed.
Yes.
At that time.
That's good.
That's great. So you've built a personal brand, and I don't know if you were intentional on building a personal brand, but I coach women on building personal brands. So that's one of the things that, you know, really inspired me whenever I heard you speak, because you being a speaker, an author, you know, you show up on social media with this persona of Courtney Bullard and who you are, and you're caring and you're faith-based and you're helping children, and, you know, all the things that you're doing really is packaged really nicely as a personal brand. And that's what brands the Pearl House. And so whether you've ever thought about it that way or not, you've done a beautiful job at that. So what do you think that personal brand and your association with the Pearl House, what difference does that make? That people know it's Courtney and it's the Pearl House.
Wow. Well, first of all, that is such a compliment, and coming from you. And I mean, this is what you do, and you're so good at it and gifted in it. So,
well, thank you.
That's such a compliment.
Well, you're doing it. You're doing it.
Thank you. And that really is not, you know, when I set out to do it, that was not my goal or intent. And so I'm grateful that that's worked out in that way. But I think that, you know, I always want, like, I want to be known for being authentic and real and honest and humble and obedient to what the Lord's leading me to do. You know, life is short. I want to not waste a moment. And I think, you know, having those goals in mind, like I want to love people well. I love people. I mean, I think everyone is unique, and I think everyone has that same desire that they want to be seen and known and know they have value and worth and purpose, and, you know, their life can make a difference. And so anyway, having those all in mind, I think that is what, you know, has continued maybe the success of Pearl House, of just, you know, you have people in mind and knowing that that's the goal. And then the rest just kind of has fallen into place.
Well, I think you've lived to your true self, right? You're doing what you really inside feel, you know, is your calling and what's important to you. And you're living that out through your personal brand, which is why it's played out so beautifully. You know, people try to do things that they're not, and that's tough. You know, if you want to be a real estate expert and show up on social media, but you've never done real estate, it's not going to work.
That's right.
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 And so I think that's you being authentic and true to yourself is why it's played out, you know, so nicely.
Wow.
So
Thank you.
You're a great example of that.
Wow. Thank you so much. You're going to make me cry. holding it back.
Well, what would you say if you had to do 5 years down the road, figure out, where your life's going to be? Your daughter's going to be older. What's next for Courtney? Where do you see yourself?
Wow. I see myself still being very busy. I don't sit well. And so, which I'm grateful that I'm wired that way. So I think that, like right now I'm in the process of, I'm writing a book, telling the story of Pearl House. I'm in the process of rebranding, my podcast. And so I'd love to have you on my podcast.
Yeah, let's do. That's great.
And so, and I see with Pearl House that, we're about to open a senior high school. I see even our girls, you see the stories of like, we're seeing the impact that it's having on their lives and the ripple effect. And so I see many more Pearl Houses, all over Ghana. We're open to the world. If someone had a connection or, I think that if you get to the root of it, all girls are the same. All women are. I mean, they're, when you get to the root of it. And so I think that the need is there all over the world. And so who knows? We'll have our old string of pearls throughout the world.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and just, more speaking. I've been out more speaking and teaching. And so
what's the premise of the book? Share with me the book.
Yes. So the book it is the Pearl House story, but I'm writing it. So it's told from my viewpoint, but then it also has Courtney Garland, who's the one who lives in Ghana, Steve, my husband, and then the stories of how it came to be. And then also what's neat is like our oldest girl right now at the Pearl House is about to graduate university. And
wow.
Just to be able to pull from their stories of, just the impact and the change and the hope that they now have.
That is incredible. So she's going to go on, get a job, and just keep going.
That's right. Yeah. Like our oldest right now she's in nursing school. So she wants to be a nurse and she's going to do it. And we don't share a lot of our girls' stories because we feel like it's their story to share, but we captured it on video. She shared it. And so I feel like, I can share with you, but she was one of our oldest girls. She came to us, over 10 years ago. She lived very poor in a very remote community. Her father had many wives and could not care for her. And she just thought, well, this is my life. And so anyways, with them, Pearl House came and she'll tell you just the difference and that we were able to educate her, give her a home, give her hope. And now she's going to be a nurse. And so I just can't wait to see, and I don't know, hopefully I'll live to see it.
Yes.
But just the ripple effect and how, she will change her family, her
Definitely.
generation and
probably come back and give back.
And that's the
right.
hope, right?
I'm sure if you've gone through something like that, the need, even if she goes out and she's a nurse and she's caring for people, she'll probably come back to the school and come back to the house and, give her service as well.
Right. And that's the goal. Like we want them to stay in Ghana and change, and impact their families, their community and the nation.
That's so incredible. Good for you. What a great joy, all those, late nights and working and just hard work. And you look and go, okay, this is why.
That's right. You do. Because it's hard.
It's
hard and it's taxing and it's sometimes can be discouraging. And so, but you hold on to those moments and those stories that you're like, this is why it makes it worth it.
So what if somebody wants to donate to the Pearl House or come volunteer or share with the ways that we can, help you out?
Yeah, we love donations.
Yeah.
It's how we continue this amazing work. And so you can go to our website, thepearlhouse.org, and you can give in that way. Our office is here in Tulsa. We always have volunteer opportunities. We have our big gala every year. It's always the week after Thanksgiving. And so there's ways you can attend, you can volunteer, but you can become a sponsor where you actually sponsor a girl in Ghana. She will write to you. You get to FaceTime her. You can even travel and come see her, meet her.
Now that is cool. What a great experience.
It is life-changing. Like it will forever change your life in a good way.
I love that. I've never heard of that. Usually it's donations and you're just kind of hoping where it goes, but you can actually experience and see it yourself.
100%. Yeah, because I think it's more than just, some people they're like, I will never be able to go, so this is how I can help. And 100% we need that. But then there's ones that can do both, or they're like, I just want to go. And so there's all different ways that you can get involved and be a part of it.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. You really are such an inspiration, not just to me, but to women everywhere.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I really just continue, and whatever it is, that passion or dream that has been put on your heart, there's a way to make it a reality.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Do It My Way podcast. If you like this episode, please remember to share with your friends and make sure to let me know who you'd like me to interview next. We'll see you next time.